Hey everybody, it's Buzz here, Mudwell Custom Tackle Instructional staff. We're going to talk in this segment about grip maintenance, grip removal, and grip repair. Some easy things that you can do to keep your rods maintained and to repair them. First thing I wanted to talk about with grip maintenance is just keeping them clean. If we can get the slime and the dirt and the fish blood and scales and whatever cleaned off of these grips, that rod's going to last you a lot longer and be able to perform better. Many of the rods that you build and the rods that you use have a natural cork grip. And natural cork is it's a traditional material for rods. It's very popular for rods, but over time it could break down if it's not maintained. One thing that we like to do with natural cork is use a little item called U40 Cork Seal. And U40 Cork Seal is very simple. It coats the outside of the cork. You let it sit on there for a while. It's a liquid. Rub it on with paper towel. And then after a while, if there's any excess, wipe it off. It coats the cork. It does not really change the feel of the cork that much, but it keeps and seals the cork so that you don't have a lot of things like grit, blood, mud, things like that breaking down the cork. So with natural cork, this is a great thing to have. If you've got a very dirty grip, whether it be cork or EVA foam, an easy way to clean these grips is by using Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Rub that on and it will take most of the surface dirt off of your grips. If you have a little bit of more soiled grips or you're not able to get it off with Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, try some Scotch-Brite. Scotch-Brite is somewhere between sandpaper and steel wool in its coarseness, and it's very good at taking the outside layer off of any type of contaminants that you've got on your grips. Winn grips, very popular model and make of grips, W-I-N-N, Winn grips. That needs a little bit of a special cleaning. A Winn grip is an EVA foam core with a polymer wrap around the EVA, and that's what comprises a Winn grip. To clean that, it's just a soft brush, old toothbrush, and some soap and water. We don't want to use any strong cleaners on there because that can actually damage that polymer grip. So with Winn grips, keep them clean, but just be careful what your cleaning agents are. Okay, we talked about keeping and maintaining the grips. Now let's talk about some grip removal. If you've got grips damaged and you need to remove them and replace them, there's a couple of easy ways that you can do that. Let's talk first about EVA foam. EVA foam is a simple, usually it is a friction fit, but it is a simple drill and glue type of grip. Whether these are put in, sometimes they'll get chewed up in rod holders, they can become damaged by wear or misuse, and so you may have to get these grips off. EVA grips are primarily a friction fit, which means there's not a whole lot of epoxy holding these things on. So what we'll do to remove an EVA grip is we'll just take a razor blade and go down till we can start to feel where the blank is in that grip and just carefully slide it down that grip all the way to the bottom. I'm not forcing that razor blade into the blank. I'm just cutting through the EVA. And let me take a second here and back up and talk about learning some of these repair techniques. What we're showing you with guide removal, tip-top removal, replacement of reel seats and grips, it's not hard to do. But I strongly suggest that you practice on a rod that you don't plan on fishing or a junk broken rod in the corner of your garage or your rod shop. Practice on something so that you can get the skill level that when you're replacing a grip on a $400 spin rod, that you're not going to damage that blank, because really that's what it comes down to. So removing these EVA grips, as I mentioned before, it's real simple. You can just run down them with a razor blade, and then you can just take your fingers or a screwdriver and just start peeling the EVA grip right off of the blank. And you'll notice on this blank, there's very little material on the blank left. There's very little epoxy and there's very little of the actual foam. So this grip comes off very easily. So all you're gonna do is make the long cuts with the razor blade, not cutting into the blank, and then just take and start peeling it off. And it'll take you about 2-3 minutes to totally get that grip off of that rod. So that's the removal of EVA grips. Let's talk about removing cork off of grips. And this is one that tends to throw off rod builders quite a bit. Let's say that the reel seat broke loose. That happens a lot on mass-produced rods. And so you have to find a way of repairing this reel seat to hold it in place, or you've got damaged grips. Now, one option is to strip all the guides off of the rod, strip the foregrip off of the rod, fix this, and then rewrap all of those guides. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. Much easier to remove the rear grip and replace it. We know that on this rod that the blank is running down the middle of this cork grip. Okay, we know where the blank is based on having built rods on these cork grips in the past. So all we're going to do is take a pair of channel locks, and you take a pair of channel locks and you grab the outside third of that grip. I'm not grabbing where I know the blank is down the middle. I'm grabbing that outside third of that grip with the channel locks. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Just take it, squeeze down on it, squeeze it together, and that is the cork removed right off of the blank. All right, I did not damage the blank. I didn't even scratch the blank. All I did was pull that cork loose off of the blank. And with mass-produced rods, there is very little epoxy that holds these cork on here. So this is very easy to do. So you're just going to take it again on the outside third, squeeze it shut, pull that cork right off. So you can see in taking a look at this right now, most of that blank is shown, but there is a little bit of cork that it is epoxied onto the blank. I would remove all this cork with this method. Then I would go back with a Dremel tool and a sanding drum, put a sanding drum on your Dremel tool, and just go back over that blank and lightly touch up where the epoxy and the cork is. And you can grind down those big epoxy bumps. We can get this thing totally stripped off in the time it just took me to describe it on the video, all right? Does not take a long time to do this. So now let's look at the second step of this. So we've totally removed all the cork off of this blank. Now, how are we going to get a new grip on there, considering that this part of the blank is thinner than this part of the blank? To do that, we ream out a hole, the inside diameter, on the new cork grip so that it fits over the fat part of the blank. Now simply build up the thinner parts of the blank with tape arbors until it's level all the way across. Once it's level with tape and the outside diameter of the blank, a cork grip slides easily over to the top and you've replaced that entire grip. Probably the last part for grip removal is removing actually the reel seat. We need to take this reel seat off. It's broken, the hood's broken, whatever the case may be, but this thing needs to come off, and it's not coming off easily. Many mass-produced rods use so little epoxy that a heat gun will often take this reel seat off. Let's assume that either your foregrip or your rear grip is totally off the rod and we have a bare blank. We need to remove this reel seat. Try a heat gun. Don't overheat it and damage the blank, but try a heat gun and see if you can break that loose. If you can't, then we need to cut it off with a Dremel tool. And when we cut it off with a Dremel tool, and we're using all the proper safety equipment, eye protection, hand protection, set up your shop vac on your bench so that your shop vac is getting all that cork dust out of your lungs and out of all of your rods and back into the shop vac. Once you have that all set up, then just take this Dremel tool and start cutting down long ways down the reel seat. Cut through it. When you're dealing with graphite reel seats, you're actually going to melt the reel seat and not cut through it, all right? This is another situation where if you want to learn how to do this, go get some broken rods and practice until you can find out how deep you can cut without damaging the blank. That's key. It's not hard to do, it just takes a little practice. This works on graphite reel seats, it works on wood reel seats, and it works on aluminum reel seats. You're just going to need a different cutting wheel to go through aluminum. So here's a little bit of a mock-up that I did where I used the Dremel and we cut through this reel seat and we made cuts all up and down the reel seat with the Dremel. Then we take a bladed screwdriver and put it right into that cut and just turn the bladed screwdriver. and you will get the real seat to come off in pieces. This right here is not the blank. You're gonna see these cuts in here. That's the arbor that they used to fill in between the blank and the real seat. So we do have some cuts into the arbor. We don't much care, okay? So that's all you need to remove a real seat from a rod, but that's another thing where you should really practice.